Guys, welcome back to another YouTube video. We are going to be going over a trade recap. So starting on the high time frame, what did I see going into the day? Well, it's important to know what happens at our range low and our range high. Now this is obviously all-time highs conditions, so I'm going to be more lenient towards being bullish every single time. But you can see at our low, we mitigated this weekly fair value gap and we started becoming bullish. Now bullish, it's not the best bullish distribution I've ever seen. However, it is clear that we are breaking above highs, sweeping at the lows, and then obviously having bullish structure. You can even see we had a little retrace right here, expansion, retrace right here, a little bit of an expansion. However, why did I take a short today? Well, it's because we are no longer bullish at this point. Price is likely seeking out an imbalance, but it's also just kind of choppy price action. So I'm more so like in these type of scenarios, I'm more lenient to play condition to condition rather than just, sticking to a bias, right? Because obviously in bullish distributions, we have retraces, and this is possible to trade in the same way a distribution is possible to trade. Both of these are tradable. This is tradable. This leg is tradable right here. It's all just about your conviction in that moment and obviously how you execute. So going into the day, what do I see? Well, we open right here with the 10 o'clock candle. So I can see, yeah, we have some bullish structure. However, what are we reacting off of? Well, we have swept this high and done what? We had a turtle soup. We are closing below this liquidity pool. You can see no candles are closing above, therefore it's a turtle soup. So there's some pretty good rejection at the highs. Now, I didn't like how we totally just edged this other draw, but the fact that price is now having a pretty bearish move off of this sweep, it means that maybe we're going to have a little bit of a further retrace, or maybe, price action is just bearish at this point. And this idea expands on the lower time frame. You can again see this idea. We're now on the hourly. We have another turtle soup where we're rejecting the high, closing below, right? Wicks do the damage, bodies tell the story. And what does this now give us? With this overall picture of the 4 hour and then a little bit of the 1 hour, we get our first signs of disrespecting versus respecting, which is the easiest way to build your bias or your DOL. You can see this 1 hour for value gap failed to distribute, and now we have a bullish disrespect or a bullish invalidation and the possibility to confirm bearishness on top of the turtle soups. So yes, we are bullish from this weekly gap. Yes, we are close to a DOL. However, price is showing us that at this exact moment, we are not bullish. That is the main point. You want to develop it through narrative, not just, oh, it's this, that, I'm just going to trade like that no matter what, right? Because then you're just becoming a pattern trader and you just stick to a bias and you get chopped up. So leading out of this 1 hour for value, I did not take the trade. I am going to cover the trade that it does offer. However, you do have this 3-minute inversion. I don't like the fact that it has such an aggressive rejection wick. However, the trade itself is pretty good. You have a little stop on inside of the gap, huge rejection out of the CE. And what did 930 do, right? 930 opened. We ended up generating a ton of LR. 10 o'clock opens, runs up higher into the gaps, stops out that little swing right here, and then we get that instant inversion lower. So really good structure, and this plays out. I hate whenever it does this. It like lags out on the replay. And so I unfortunately don't take this trade. I may or may have not been asleep. I won't confirm that. But yeah, so I didn't end up catching that first trade. However, we do get a continuation off of this. I do just want to say this for the video so you guys can start to identify in your own trading. But this is a high time frame continuation with a low time frame reversal. This is essentially, right, going back to that high time frame structure. What are we having, right? That turtle soup, that 1 hour for value gap. We are in a continuation scenario, high time frame. However, whenever you go to the low time frame, it looks like this leg right here is a huge bullish leg, right? Huge bullish leg, and you're reversing on all of that. And that is the best way to trade this scenario because it's going to give you a lot of RR. With that, still having a good win rate because you're still trading the high time frame. However, the trade I end up taking is right around here, which turns from a high time frame low time frame reversal into a high time frame continuation, low time frame continuation, which is arguably a better way of trading. However, you do sacrifice some of the RR as most of the range, as you can see here, is taken at this point. So in this scenario, leading up to this, I'm now looking to this 4 hour intermediate or 1 hour intermediate over here. Now this is it's a better 4 hour intermediate low than it is a 1 hour. So we're just gonna call it the 4 hour intermediate low. And I'm taking, oh my gosh, can this person stop? I'm taking a 5-minute cont towards that, right? We have an hourly manipulation. It then distributes, creates a healthy 5-minute fair value gap. We also then print an SMT here, which I'll show you. So, right, very simple. High time frame starts the manipulation, low time frame continues it. Bang, 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 right? So that's the idea going into this trade. And then low time frame, we can break this down even further. What are we doing, right? Now, I don't really like how we fully mitigated the fair value gap, how we were kind of above CE. But it's still fine with me because we end up printing this SMT, right? I saw this little extra run up, which could be seen as like, oh, disrespecting bullish. But I saw it as like, okay, that's just, you know, the extra leg of manipulation, and it's not entirely pretty. But the fact that ES at this point was holding the gap fairly well. You can see over here, ES was like fully wicking it. It's nothing anything too crazy. And also this is still the low time frame, so these closes don't matter, right? The 5-minute is still closing somewhat all right within the gap. And this leads us into our entry confirmation, which is going to be the 2-minute inversion. So at this point, what do we have? I want to talk about the PO3 here primarily and how they all blend together. 9:30 does what? Generates lows. 10 o'clock opens higher, manipulates inside of the 1 hour gap, starts our main manipulation. So the 10 o'clock candle does majority of the damage here. We then continue. We run lower, and how we generated lows right here, we're now generating lows again, leading up to that 4 hour intermediate low. And so we generate lows, but then we do what again? What is this candle? This is the 10:30 candle. So a 30-minute PO3 opens, manipulates higher, has that SMT. We're still inside of that 5-minute sponsored fair value gap. And we can now expect this distribution. So this is a really good PO3 where you can even see with the 9:30 opening price right here, we are now above 9:30. Oh, actually, I marked that wrong. It was at the top. We're now above 9:30 opening price. So in a time premium, 10 o'clock already manipulated. So no time premium for 10 o'clock because it's way up here. But then we are in a time premium for 10:30. So really good scenario of stacking PO3s. We got a pretty healthy close on the 2-minute. I'm not the biggest fan of this rejection wick, right? It's an 18-point rejection wick, but then like a 25-point candle body. But again, not super bad. I'm definitely willing to, roll with that. And I end up taking the trade despite kind of being towards like, I don't really trade a lot towards end of session, but I did really like the trade. And you can see, oh my gosh, I nearly get my stop loss right. I cannot sit here and lie and say that I wasn't a little bit nervous. I was like, oh, this is definitely a loss. Because we also had, at my entry, we had an SMT at this swing low. Now, the reason why I don't really care about the SMT at this swing low is because it's a low time frame, right? There's no gap to it. Again, there's no narrative. All this really is just criteria, right? There's no significance to it because it's not having all the narrative that we've been building with the 1 hour gap, the 1 hour time frames, rejections, the continuation, the generation of liquidity up to this fair value gap. So really, it's just a random SMT. That's why I neglected it, and this one is so much more significant to me. But yeah, we get super close to my stop loss. I'm basically shitting bricks at this point. And I'm like, yeah, this is for sure a loss. But luckily, that 10:45 candle opens, ends up going my direction, basically fully printing the swing. And we get a little bit of a distribution into where I get break even. So I take my entry around here. Let me actually just anchor it properly. I take my entry right here. I had a full wick stop loss just because like the wick isn't like enough. It wasn't big enough for me to use C of the wick. I might as well just, have it at the full thing. And so I go down to the 1 minute. And I actually end up going break even at this low. Now my TP was way lower. It was like way down here. So why did I go break even at this low, and why did I choose this stop loss? Well, the reason why I chose this stop loss is I approach stop losses very discretionally in the sense that like there's no mechanical approach. I usually just base it around the candle closures. So like at this moment I can recognize, yes, there's an SMT. We actually haven't closed this 1 minute fair value gap. So we could have a little bit of a retrace as we did. So I wouldn't want to have my stop loss right here whenever that's only a 30-point stop. And then obviously for the wick, you might say, okay, well, what about CE of the wick? The reason why I don't want to do CE of the wick is because the wick isn't really that significant anyway. So I might as well just have it at the full wick, right? The difference would probably be 5 points. Yeah, literally 5 points. So I might as well just have it at the full stop loss. It's also an SMT, which usually people approach that with a full stop loss anyway, but I've never really cared about that. And then why did I go break even here? Why did I think that this is where my setup becomes threatened? A lot of you guys probably watched the break even video and you're like, okay, well, what's the justification behind this? Because look, there's still a bunch of LR. Well, it's a combination of a few things. So this low is actually a 15-minute candle low, right? You can see here the 10:30 candle that's obviously printed as a 15-minute candle has that low. So it's technically a low time frame or a high time frame low. It's not a high time frame swing. However, it is a high time frame low. And another factor that went into this break even is more so how price action has played out up until this point. So you can see 930 open. What do? We chop. Then we have a major distribution. Then we chop. Then we have a major distribution. And then again, we chop, right? So I'm anticipating that for my trade to actually hit and, be correct and like me be fully safe in this scenario, we should really just bleed here because price has opened up a high time frame candle, manipulated inside of the 5-minute SMT, blah, blah, blah. It's done everything that it's needed to do. So we should really just break and actually have a low resistance run, right? A low resistance run does not have this type of high resistance criteria or see, what would be the word? Basically, high, like this is pretty high resistance. The fact that we're failing to go lower, like there's a bunch of wicks involved. Look how we're rejecting this low. It's not very low resistance. Low resistance you'll clear out within like a few candles, such as this move right here, where it's just clearly, taking out all these lows. So I go break even there. And then another factor would also be the fact of how close we got to my stop loss. I'm not going to sit here and say that my emotions weren't slightly kind of poking the bear a little bit. Because me seeing it go all the way up here, I was nearly certain that I was going to take a loss today. And so that kind of played into a fact that, yeah, all right, this isn't usually how my trades play out anyway. So I don't really want to take a loss here. And that actually saves me from a lot of chop. If I didn't get stopped out here somehow, I would have gotten stopped out later. I believe we end up having another leg up. Yeah, so it saves me a bunch of chop, right? You can see right here, it actually plays out. Isn't it crazy how price action just repeats itself, right? 9:30, it's very choppy, random distribution. 10 o'clock, very choppy, random distribution. I can anticipate that, again, take some risk off where we should, if I'm correct, this DOL should be strong enough of a magnet where these low time frame lows mean nothing. So yeah, that's my trade of the day. That's my thought process on the break even, my stop loss placement. And yeah, I do just want to say at the end of the video, if you took your short up here, definitely trade of the day. I cannot believe that I fell asleep during I wake up at 9:30. It's like 9:35. It's like 9:40, and I trade in bed sometimes, so I get tired, and then I'm like, fuck, now I'm asleep, and then I wake up. And yeah, and then I also do want to say the reason why I faded the 9:35 or the 9:34 is because I wanted an SMT at this point. With us kind of having this choppy high time frame, again, obviously the 1 hour, 4 hour, we are at all-time highs, kind of. It's not all-time highs, but we're still in this range where we are usually just going to randomly become bullish, and we already had the trade of the day. I'm going to need something that can size up to trade of the day. I'm not going to, fade an A plus and then take a B plus setup later on. I'm going to need another A or A plus to, me be comfortable with it, because the market doesn't offer a ton of A plus setups every single day. So I'm not gonna take a lower quality one con and then whatever. But yeah, so that's gonna wrap it up for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Leave a comment if you're confused. I'll be getting back to every single comment. I feel like I've been pretty locked in with that. So yeah, I'll see y'all later. Make sure you like, subscribe, and yeah.